to have control of our life. Therefore, we have peace, we have promise, we have power. And as a result, we are individuals that are in our right mind. Now, I realize there's folks that have doubt about that in my case. But when you realize or stop to think about the fact that if we are in our right mind, then we would never, ever want to forsake a life that we could have for Jesus for pleasure. Because we don't want restrictions, therefore we don't want Christ. One of the things that we have to understand is that in our life, God has given us everything that we need. He's given us salvation. He's given us grace. Salvation was important. Grace is better. Now, I know I may get cornered outside on that statement, but think about it. Salvation is good. It washed away my sins. I was buried. I was resurrected. I was clean. But the better part of it is grace, because it takes the word was out of it and puts in its place the word am. I am clean. I am washed. Even though in my life, in my weaknesses, I fall short of the glory of God, if I continue to journey with Him, grace continually is there to wash away that weakness, that indifference, that mistake, that sin. And that's why I say grace is better. We had a guest speaker one time, and he said, and I'm going to keep telling you this till you remember it, that you cannot out-sin grace. God's grace is so broad that we cannot out-sin it. But you have to realize that when we look at salvation, when we look at grace, we're not talking about a moment in time. We're talking about eternal. Grace is eternal. Salvation is eternal. And what Christ gave us was eternal, in that God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth upon Him should not perish, but have everlasting life. It is eternal. And what you have to understand is that it is eternal past, it's eternal future, it's eternal now. It's forever. That's why it is better that we have this. It gives us the abundant life that John speaks of in John chapter 10. And in verse 10, he says, the thief cometh not, but for to steal, to kill, to destroy. I came that you might have life, and that you might have it more abundantly. I had a friend that I worked with when I was working full time for the Head Start. She had a favorite word, and that word was googobs. And whenever I read this passage here, that it is abundantly, I think of Bonnie's googobs. More than you can account for. It's more than it's taller than you can see the top. It's broader than you can see the ends. It is so abundant to you and to me that it staggers the imagination. And also, in this better quality of life that Christ gives us, is that it is a gratifying life. You know, a lot of people in the world look out and say, what is it that Christians have? Well, one thing you have to understand is that Christians have a sense of satisfaction in that they are doing the right thing, the very best thing that they know how to do. And just like Paul said in Philippians 4, in verse 13, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. King James, strengtheneth. That's hard to say. But he gives me the strength. Oh, I can't be a Christian. I can't do that. I want to say wah. Because we can be so negative. I've done things so horrible, even God can't forgive me. I couldn't live the Christian. I can't be that good that long. And believe me, I've heard that one. Underestimates the power of strength that God gives to us. Since we have life from God, you can be sure of one thing. Nothing can surpass it or excel it in any way, any shape, any form, any fashion. So not only do we have a better way of life, not only do we have a better quality of life, but we have a better view of life. Have you ever been around somebody that is just so sour all the time? You wonder why they even bother to get out of bed. But they probably do because the sheets hurt their back, so they've got to get up and their feet hurt. And they grump and they gripe and they complain and they're sad and they're upset about this, that, and the other. And it's just like a ventriloquist that I've occasionally seen, Jeff Dunham. And he has a puppet that has got a sour expression on his face. He's mad at everything. Nothing suits him. Always complaining, always griping. And sometimes if we are not careful, we could be just like Walter. Always sad, always upset, always grumpy about what all's going along in our life. He doesn't like anybody. He doesn't like Jeff, who gives him the voice. He doesn't like any of his fellow puppets. Does that sound like somebody human, you know? We've all seen them. We've all been around them. And you wonder why they even bother. But you know Christ died for them too. And he gave to them gave them the opportunity to have a better view on life, because the Bible speaks of a better hope that we have in the Lord. In Hebrews, in 7:19, it says, he says, for the law made nothing perfect, but the bringing of a better hope did by that which we draw nigh unto God. A better hope. Not a better circumstance. I'm here to tell you, I was baptized in 1963 and I haven't hit the lottery yet. What's the matter with this deal? Well, first of all, you got to buy a ticket. That was explained to me the other day. But I don't have $1. So I can't, it's always something that's not working well. And by the way, anybody that plays the lottery is just paying extra taxes if you didn't figure that out by now. But I brought that up just for the point of illustration. Because if you want something out of life, then you have to put something into it. Whether it is the gift of visiting a friend, whether it is the gift of meeting a need, if it's a gift of a phone call to someone who has experienced something unpleasant. All of these things work together to help us have a better view. And I know you're going to get tired of me talking about the Bike and Build group. There were a number of us that had a lot of exposure to this group of people. And I stayed up here pretty much every waking hour for 2 days. Somebody was always here to help meet the needs of whatever this 32 people needed. Went to Amarillo, picked up one of their leaders. And they thanked me for all of the things that I personally had done for them. They thanked the congregation. Jeff put an article in the paper that talked about our outpouring in the community. Beautifully written article. Look what we put into that. And what did we get back? A sense of knowing that we did the right thing at the right time when people needed it. Probably never see nor hear from any of these folks again. But I assure you of one thing, they will always remember the Wheeler Church of Christ and Wheeler, Texas, because we showed them Christ. We showed them that by being in Him, it is a better way of life. And as a result, it gave me a better view. Sometimes as we go through our Christian life, me and my ministry, you and your life, sometimes I get kind of, where's this going? What's going to happen to this? And it takes something like that to kick me in the bottom of my pants, to make me realize that this is what it's all about. And you don't plan them. They happen, you react. Just like the coach at Fort Elliott. When he had his heart attack, groups began to meet, starting with the players, starting with other members of the team, starting with those in the stands. An awesome display of faith in the power of God. That's what you have as a Christian, is a better view of what life is all about. We also see that we have a confidence and an expectation for better things in our future. And I assure you that better things is not necessarily going to be wealth. What it may simply be is an opportunity for you to show to others what the Father looks like. Because when they see you, they see way down deep inside that I have my Father's eyes. I have His heart. I have His love. And that's what Jesus was trying to teach us in Hebrews about bringing a better life. Looking for a blessed hope, a glorious appearing of the great God and our Savior, Jesus Christ. And that becomes the anchor to our soul. And an anchor is so critical to a sailing vessel. A spiritual anchor is valuable also to Christians. Because he says, which hope we have as an anchor of the soul, both sure and steadfast, which endureth into and within the veil. That's Hebrews 6:19. Sometimes we lose sight of the fact that hope and our faith is the anchor to our soul.